This is Road Noise, episode number 13, the Christmas show, what to get Dad, and the Treadmill agreement. Those are the topics I'm going to talk about on this episode of Road Noise, life 1 mile at a time. Welcome back into another episode of Road Noise, life 1 mile at a time. This is the Christmas episode. I'm recording this on the 21st of December, but it will be released on the 25th because I release on Fridays. And so, Merry Christmas to you if you are listening to this as the show is released on the day it is released. Merry Christmas, and I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. I so far am, and it's been very tiring, and I'm going to tell you about some of that stuff coming up in this episode. But the first thing I want to do is tell you who I am. I'm Mike Blackston. If this is the first time you've listened to the show and you're wondering, okay, what's this show about and what am I hearing underneath his voice? Well, the show's called Road Noise, and this is my audio journal, and it's my discussion with you about life. And you're riding along with me in the car on a commute to my daily job. The noise you're hearing under the sound of my voice is the road, and that's why I call it Road Noise. It's been a tough week. Have you ever had just a series or a nugget of your life, of your time, that is just so jam-packed with everything you've got to do that it seems hard to even take a breather? That's been my life this past few weeks, these past few weeks. My life has just been absolutely one thing right after another, and it culminated this weekend. I finally got everything that I needed to get done that I had promised to other people. I finally got it all done with a week to go before Christmas, and it felt so good, but I am so tired. It's 4 o'clock in the morning as I commute to Conway, South Carolina. So it's just me and you, and you're in the passenger seat with me, and I want to tell you all about the Christmas show. The show is actually called A Prelude to Christmas, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my difficulty figuring out exactly what to do for my dad for Christmas. Normally what I do is not going to fly anymore. A monkey wrench was thrown into that, and so now I've got to figure out something else to do. And then I want to talk about the Treadmill agreement between me and my wife for Christmas. Several months ago, I was helping to clean out the set department at the local theater where my wife and my family and I do a lot of theater. And we had just finished production on a show called Bye Bye Birdie. And I was helping the theater director kind of organize the building out back behind the theater where we place most of the big props that we use that over and over again for sets, and all of the lumber and the things that we use to build sets and the tools and stuff. And so she and I spent just about the whole day organizing that place. During that time, we were talking about the theater, and the theater has recently spent a lot of money, or the city has recently spent a lot of money to renovate a space that the theater has been using called the Arts Center right behind the theater building. And it was just this old building that had a big garage area that we threw everything in, and the area where we got ready and dressing rooms and stuff like that. And it just needed to be renovated really badly. It was pretty much falling apart. So they put a lot of money and effort and time into renovating the Arts Center, and they put in a new stage, a secondary stage that we could do smaller shows, brand new nice dressing rooms, a breezeway between the two buildings so that you could walk right into the back of the theater without having to go outside, because we had to go outside and walk around the building to get into the theater. Just really nice. And I said, I really want to say thank you to the city and the community and the theater for this. I think I would enjoy putting together a little Christmas concert. And that was all that was said. We talked about it a little bit. She said she thought that'd be a good idea. And then we continued working and got to other conversations. Well, A few days later, I get a phone call from Tony. The theater manager I'm talking about is also my co-host for Q1 Go, the theater show. And her name is Tony King. And Tony called and said, Michael, when in December would you like to put on that concert? And I said, whoa, okay. Well, wasn't really thinking that it would probably be this December. It's kind of something I thought I'd like to do, in the future, but I really hadn't put any further thought into it. She said, well, we've got time in December if you'd like to put something together. And I said, okay, well, let's just go ahead and do it. Well, that happened this past weekend. The show was called A Prelude to Christmas. And I did that because I wanted a prelude to Christmas, because I wanted to be something that people would come to that would help get them into the spirit of Christmas, to kind of catapult them into this wonderful holiday season when I know everybody's kind of rushing around, and sometimes it's hard to get in the Christmas spirit because of everything you've got to do. I've had a hard time with it this year because of everything I've got to do. It gets lost in all of the list of things that are on your agenda. Well, we started working on it back in September, and we put it together a little bit at a time. We started rehearsing. I made a mistake for one thing. Here, let me back up and tell you what my original dream for this concert was to be. I didn't want it to be like a normal show that we do at the theater. Normally we have 3 rehearsals a week, 2 hours per night. So it'd be a 2-hour rehearsal each Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. That's the general schedule for a show we put on at the theater. And it usually lasts that way every week for, we do Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays every week for 2.5 months, depending on what kind of show it is, how big the cast is, how in-depth it is. If it's a musical, I usually like to have about 3 months of rehearsals. I didn't want it to be a burden on anybody, especially as we got closer to the Christmas season and people's schedules became more and more stacked together with stuff they had to do. I wanted it to be something fun. I also did not want to hold auditions. I didn't want it to be something where I had to go through that whole process and turn people down. My idea was to put together kind of a dream cast. I had several people in mind that I wanted to be a part of this show, and just based on stuff I'd experienced with them before, cast members I'd had in other shows and stuff like that before. And so I started making phone calls saying, okay, we're going to do this show in a year, because I had this happened, when I say several months ago, I mean over a year ago, but in the show was the fact that the rehearsal process was going to be very simple, very easy and loose, and it would not take that much time out of their schedule. I told them we would rehearse every couple of weeks, one night, couple of hours, one night every 2 weeks, until the month of the show, and then a couple of weeks before the show was to open curtain, we would have a few more rehearsals just to make sure we were tight. And everybody said, sure, yeah, I'd love to be a part of that. My number one problem was that letting such a loose rehearsal schedule tends to create in people an idea of putting things off. You've got 2 weeks between each rehearsal night, and you feel like I've got plenty of time to go over that. I'll do it later, and you put it off. Procrastination. I didn't set in mentally with the people that agreed to do it eventually how important it was to have all of this. And if I do this again, I will actually have a more rigorous rehearsal schedule. So I had several people that I wanted to be a part of this. My wife, of course, and me, of course. We sing, so we would obviously be a part of it. My son is an up-and-coming singer. He's 11 and a half years old and a wonderful little singer, and I thought it'd be a great experience for him. Plus, who doesn't like a kid in a Christmas show? So he was going to be a part of it. So there were 3 people, and I only wanted 6 to 7 people. So I only had about, at that point, 6 was in my mind. 3 more people that I needed to ask. I knew I needed some other guys, so I picked one more guy, a young man named Henry who had some promise and is a good singer, and I asked him, and he said yes. I asked a young lady that had been a member of Bye Bye Birdie and was just a phenomenal talent, and I thought she's got this really great pep about her. This young teenage girl, 18 years old, got this great pep about her, and everybody went nuts for her during Bye Bye Birdie, so I said I want her to be a part of the show as well. And then there was one other young lady that I've worked with since she was about 6 or 7 years old, and she's now in her early 20s and is going to school for theater. And again, wonderful talent, wonderful, energetic young lady. And of course, like I said, I've worked with her for several years and several shows. And I called her and said, would you be interested in being part of our Christmas show? I wanted her to be one of the other anchors for besides me and my wife. And she said, absolutely, I'd love to do it. So let's fast forward. This was back in January of 2015, so this was almost a year ago as this is being recorded. Fast forward toward time to start getting people music and deciding who's going to sing what and making sure of who is really going to be in the show. Because after that much time, people forget, new things happen on their schedules. It just, I knew there may be some hiccups there as far as casting. So I started making the phone calls, and the first thing I realized was the young girl that I just told you about that I wanted to kind of anchor the experience with the rest of the cast, the girl I've worked with on several shows. I had seen on Facebook that she had moved to Kentucky and was working with a group of children in Kentucky. Well, that wasn't going to work. I mean, she's in Kentucky. So I didn't even call her. I figured, okay, I got to replace her. So I asked one of the girls that we go to church with, who was also in Bye Bye Birdie, actually the young lady that played the lead of Kim in Bye Bye Birdie, and asked her to replace Danielle, and she gratefully said, sure, I'd love to do it. So I had that taken care of, and it's right there. She's ready to go. Then I called Camille, the young girl. I said, the first one I asked from Bye Bye Birdie is just very bubbly and energetic, and unfortunately she took a minute to get back to me. She was kind of hard to get in touch with because she's going to college, and she just was right in the middle of starting her new college career, and so much going on. She was just going in, and I found out she had just taken a job as well, and she was very apologetic but said, I'm so sorry. I know I told you I would do this, but I just, having taken this new job, can't do it. I'm not going to be able to make practices, and that's not fair to you. So she wasn't going to be able to do it. Well, we had another young lady I've worked with several times in a lot of shows. She hasn't done a whole lot of singing, but she has done some, and I knew she was very good on stage, and so I asked Lauren to take Camille's place, and Lauren thankfully said yes. So I had my cast and was ready to go. I get a phone call from Tony. She says, my boyfriend sings. He was wondering if you need another guy's voice. Well, I had been thinking I do need another guy's voice. So I said, and I had heard her boyfriend Craig sing. He's one of these, he's a big guy, and he's just one of these kind of rock, kind of, I don't want to say growler, because he's not a growler. He has a great clear voice, good deep clear voice. But when I say growling, I mean he's just got this soul about him, and that he can grind out a soulful song. And I thought we need that dynamic in this show. So I said, absolutely, have Craig come on. And Craig ended up being one of the highlights of the show. He did such a great job as well. So I had my cast ready, and we started loosely rehearsing this stuff. And I told everybody, I gave them packets of their music. I said, this is what you're going to sing. Listen to your track. I gave them copies of their tracks that they were going to be singing to. This would not be live music. It was pre-recorded tracks. I said, here are your lyrics. Here's the rundown of the show. Here are the songs you're duetting. Here are the songs you're soloing. There was, one, maybe two solos each, and maybe a duet that everybody got to be a part of. Several, 3 or 4 numbers that the entire company would sing, and then by the time you added all that up together, you had about 45 minutes per act. And it was, perfect timing. So I gave them their packets and I said, we're not going to rehearse your solos and duets very much. I said the order of importance will be the group company numbers, because there were a couple of them that were fairly difficult. I said we're going to hit those very hard in the rehearsals that we have. It's going to be up to you to see to it that you are ready for curtain on your solos. And we will hit the duets as we get closer, but go ahead and practice with your tracks and with the original versions, just singing over them, getting used to your timing and your notes, singing the duets at home, and then we'll start putting them together as we get closer. But we're really going to spend a lot of time, and most of our time, on the company numbers. And we're not going to do any blocking. I told them this is going to be very loose. It's a concert style thing. We're standing at mics, one person right after the other, with me and my wife emceeing the show, and just bringing people a nice, loose, easy, not country, but Christmas show. Everybody seemed to be on board for that. Everything was good. One of the things I have learned now, having done this show, is that it's going to be very important in the future, if we ever do this show again. I'm kind of on the fence as to whether we're going to do it again, and I'll tell you about that or why in just a minute. I just really probably should have paid more attention to the solos in rehearsal, because everyone's schedule was such that only a couple of people were ready to go with their solos when they needed to be. We really had to scramble in a couple of places to get people's solos where they needed to be, just because of different things. And it wasn't that anybody was slacking, really. It's just, it's easy to put it off for later. Lauren, for instance, the young lady that took Camille's place, I knew when I asked her that she was going to have a lot on her plate. She plays in the band. She's a high school student who is a member of the varsity band. Most of the rehearsals were taking place during football season, and our football team is good, and so I knew they'd be going into the playoffs and everything, so she'd be responsible for that, and that would be on her mind. She was also in the show that they were doing on the main stage at the theater at the moment, because the Prelude to Christmas was on the Art Center stage, the smaller stage that they had recently built. And she was in the main stage show called Dashing Through the Snow, and I knew she had rehearsals for that, and her rehearsals were going on at the same time we were having rehearsals. So we were having a small number of rehearsals, but at the same time she was always at rehearsal and had to sneak in and out, and I knew that was going to be an issue, and it did end up being an issue, but she was very dedicated. When she said she would be there, she was there. We just didn't put quite enough time into the individual solos, and I think that put a little bit of a strain on the singers. They ended up doing a great job, and I knew they would, but I think that coming up as we got closer to performance time, people started getting a little stressed. So as we got closer, like I said, a couple of them were like, we really haven't done anything on the stage a whole lot. We've just kind of sat around tables and gone over stuff, and they started feeling nervous about this show. And I had to stand back and say, listen, we said from the start this was not going to be a tightly produced show. We didn't want it to be. We wanted to have the feel of everybody just kind of loosely getting up around the fireplace on Christmas Eve singing as a family. That's how we wanted it to feel, almost to the audience. I said, so we're not going to go over everything me and my wife are going to say. I had a list of things, a small short script of things my wife and I would say as we emceed the show, and even my wife, I explained to her, I said, I've scripted this, but it's very contrived, and I don't want us to necessarily say exactly this, word for word, verbatim. We're just going to use this kind of as an outline of the type of thing we're going to say, but go out there and wing it because Kayla and I are used to doing that, and the community is used to us doing that. So we didn't even go over that stuff until... We didn't even really go over it. Even on Final Dress, we went through the music and paid more attention to that, and she and I went through and said, blah, 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 we'll say this here, we'll say this here. And we just assured the cast that we would be ready when our time came. Don't worry about us. And so I put the list of the stuff on the walls on each wing and said, be ready. We did a final dress. Told everybody to dress in nice Christmas attire. We didn't do makeup. Wasn't any need. That is a very small, intimate space. And didn't feel like we needed any makeup or anything like that, so we didn't do that. Very loose, like I said. A prelude to Christmas for the people that came turned out very well. Unfortunately, if you've listened to the last couple of episodes, you'll know that coming up right into the last couple of weeks, I got sick. And Kayla and I were sort of featured singers. So I got sick and was on the back end of it during this performance. 3 performances, just one weekend. Kayla started getting sick yesterday, which is Sunday. Today, as I record this is a Monday. She woke up for the final performance on Sunday morning almost sick as a dog, with the same type stuff that I'd had, which is very effectual to your voice. It just weakens your lungs, your throat hurts, it takes your voice. She was not a happy camper. She did very well with it, by the way. She came through it, she battled through, did some things that we know kind of how to do to prep yourself in a situation like that as best as we can, and she did that, and she did well. So the cast did a great job, and everybody, I could tell, was so happy it was over, though. We struck that set. It was very easy to strike the set. I had it set up really nice and pretty, almost like a living room in someone's house with a rocking chair and a fireplace and a Christmas tree with presents under it and a couple of wreaths that were hung on either side of the stage, and then a couple of pre-lit topiaries on either side just outside of the stage. It was very nice. We didn't change the lights a whole lot. We had low kind of blue essence light coming from the sides to drape the stage, and then lit the white light just enough to where it was nice and kind of warm. So it turned out really well. The Christmas concert I am proud of. I wish that I had not gotten sick. I do not feel like I feel like I was maybe 50% as far as my voice went. We sang a song called The Prayer, and I was so disappointed because Kayla and I were looking forward to singing The Prayer. If you go listen to Josh Groban and Charlotte Church sing The Prayer, that's what we sang, and my part was, for the most part, in Italian. Gorgeous, beautiful song, but it is not an easy song to do, and it's operatic, and with my voice not being there, I never did, out of all 3 performances. I think the first night was probably the best. Yesterday probably was the most solid on my part, simply because I was aware that I was not going to be able to hit the high notes full voice, because the first 2 nights my voice cracked a little on both of them. Quite a lot, actually, on the second night. And so I said, I'm going to have to go a different route with this, take a different tact in this song, and I had to falsetto some areas that normally I hit full voice, and that disappointed me, but it worked a lot better and seemed like it was what I was supposed to do. But overall, the show was good, and the cast did well. They didn't just do well. They gave it everything they had. They really made it a good show. And we had several people that came that asked, are you going to do this next year? They said, you gotta make this an annual thing. We did accomplish what we set out to do, which was to put people in the Christmas spirit. And so many people came up to us and said, I was not in the Christmas mood when I came to the show tonight, and I am leaving. Most of them told us that by the end of Act 1, they were smiling and in a Christmas spirit, and they were thanking us for that. People were so thankful. The ones that came were so thankful for this show and for what we had done for them. And that's what makes me think we may do it again. But I really I don't know. Because hardly anybody came. When I say hardly anybody, I'm not trying to disrespect the people that did come. The people that did come, there were a couple of people that came twice. The first night we had between 20 and 30 people. The second night we had 10 in the audience. And there was probably nearly 20 people. I think there were about 20, maybe 22, 23 people on Sunday afternoon. When you put a lot of work into a show, and agreed, we didn't put as much work into this show as we normally do. If we do it again, we will put more into it, but I will see now just how important it is to have an advertising plan in place better than what we did. I just didn't have the time. I couldn't advertise anymore. I hung the posters and talked it up as much as I could, but it just didn't work out that enough people saw. And this time of the year, you're also competing with Christmas parties and people who are shopping and doing other things. I also think the fact that we did it December the 18th, 19th, and 20th might have been a little too close to Christmas. I think next year we might move it back a week if we do it, hopefully, because maybe by doing that, everyone won't be in the middle of, they'll have a little bit more time. Maybe if we do it at the 1st of December. Maybe people will be more interested. Okay, it's the 1st of December. Let's catapult ourselves into the Christmas spirit. And in the first part of December, people aren't having their Christmas parties for the most part. So I really think Saturday night was hurt when only 10 people showed, because a lot of people were probably having Christmas parties maybe at their home or office Christmas parties. On top of the fact that this was also opening weekend for the new Star Wars movie. And the theater shows first-run movies on the weekends when there's not a show going on. So we were competing right next door with Star Wars as well in the local community. So the Christmas show turned out really well, but it can be better. And if we do it next year, I think I know what we're going to do to fix what did go wrong as far as audience participation and getting people a little more prepared for their music. But, you live and you learn. And it's over, and the cast, I didn't even have a cast party. Tony King asked about a cast party, and I never got back to her. I just decided, my son asked yesterday, too, if there was going to be a cast party. It's one of those where everyone was so ready to go, and Christmas is this week. I didn't want to have to burden them with one more thing they felt obligated to do. A bunch of them did get together after the show yesterday and go out to eat, and that I decided would kind of be their cast party, and I thanked them personally and put a Facebook message out there of how much I appreciate everything that they did, and we're going to leave it like that. The next thing I want to talk about is how to buy Christmas for my dad. You may have this exact same problem, and it may not just be your dad, it may be your mom, because I probably could have said for my dad and my mom, because I don't know what to get for my mom either. With everything going on this week, I haven't had, or up until this week, I have had no opportunity to buy Christmas presents for anybody, other than maybe a few of them for my children, just a few little bitty things, but even the big stuff I haven't gotten yet. I know what I'm going to get, but I haven't had a chance to actually take into action and get those things. But you've got all these side things of people that you've got to buy for as well. We draw names at my family get-together, and everybody, each family gets 2 names to draw for, and so I've got to get those. I knew what to get. for those. I called around and found out, what would they like. But, you also have the little periphery things. I've got to buy something for my sister. I've got to get something for my nephew. And I've got to get something for my dad and my stepmom for when we go over there. Now, my mom is, I don't want to say, I just said she wasn't easy. She's not easy to buy for because I just don't know what to buy for my mom. I'm just not good at buying gifts. I'm better at making gifts, and I've talked about that on a previous episode. But the problem is, I've made a lot of gifts recently because I had to. I didn't have the funds. Up until recently, I was the only breadwinner in the house. My wife was a homemaker, which was great, but we didn't have a lot of money at Christmas. We've only had one other Christmas in our 20 years of marriage where we had sort of a surplus of income that we were able to buy a little more than we normally would for people at Christmas. Other than that, in our past 20 years, this is the first time, because she started working for a corporation, loves the job, and is making good money now. And we have a little, I'm not going to say we have more money than we can handle. I mean, we still got a lot of bills to pay and stuff too. But we are able to have a decent Christmas this year. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to having to say, I'm going to draw this. My mom said she would love for me to paint something like this for her. Last year I made my mom a CD. I fully produced a CD with pre-recorded music. But she loves to hear me sing, and I did a Christmas album for her of me singing, and I went and I found a orchestral accompaniment for all of the songs I wanted to do. And because I have this recording equipment and stuff like that, I spent a lot of time putting together a nice CD of me singing Christmas music for her. And that's the type of thing my mom loves. Well, I haven't been able to do anything like this for her this year. My dad is not a Grinch when it comes to Christmas. He understands why we celebrate Christmas, and he's for celebrating Christmas. But he absolutely hates the commercialism. He is not about all this going and buying gifts just for the sake of buying gifts. And there's a little bit of that in me too. I really wish that, except for kids, we wouldn't do so much buying gifts for adults as much as we would making something for each other, or spending time with each other in fellowship, having a meal together, which we do all of that stuff. But I just think that everybody feeling like they have to draw names and give gifts and all that stuff, I think it gets to be a little much with the adults, honestly. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think it's necessary to celebrate, and I think that the celebration could be more genuine and heartfelt if we didn't feel obligated to have to go get something and figure out what we're going to have to get and hope they like it and that type of thing. Well, my dad is one of those guys who has one of everything. And he's so practical. I'm not the kind of person... I'm going to move over in another lane so I'm not... And he's so practical that there's really nothing I can buy that he doesn't already have and enough of. So it puts you kind of in a weird situation. I don't know what to do, because my dad he usually just gives us money. Honestly, he usually gives me and my wife $100 each, and that's good, and that's fine. We enjoy that. I'm a very efficient type gift giver anyway. But we end up usually getting him a gift card. It came to light from my sister as we were speaking the other day. She and I always go, "What are you going to get, Dad? What are you going to get, Dad?" and try to feed off each other to figure out ideas. And we were doing the Christmas season, "What are you going to get, Dad?" because this always goes on at Father's Day, Christmas, and his birthday and things like that. And I said, "I don't have a clue yet. I'm thinking about it." And she said, "Well, we usually get him gift cards." And I said, "Yeah, it's probably going to be a gift card." She said, "Don't get him a gift card." And I said, why? She said, it has come to my attention he hates gift cards. I can't give, my dad has always given us money because he's known that, like I just said, usually a little strapped at Christmas, and he knows that giving me and Kayla a couple $100 is practical. It's efficient. We can apply that to either a gift if we are doing well enough at the time to where we can, afford to do that, or we can apply it to a bill if that will ease the burden. And we we always appreciate that really highly, because there have been many, many, many times, in fact, the majority of the time, that really, because of having to buy for the kids and stuff like that, that $200 comes in very handy for living expenses. And I can't compete with that. And Dad wouldn't want me to. What would be the point if I handed him a $100 bill and he handed me a $100 bill and we just kind of washed out? So I try to put some thought into it, but usually it ends up being a gift card because I just don't know what to do. And so I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do for him. I'm going to look, and I guess what I need to do is exactly what the whole idea of giving gifts at Christmas is. What I realize is I've gotten lazy. Instead of figuring it out here lately and thinking I'm going to spend some time thinking about my dad, I've said, I've got so much going on, gift card. Boom, Dad's done. This is going to force me to try to get to know my dad a little better, to think about him more, and how I can gift him with something that he not only will find efficient, but will understand I put thought into. And so, while it's a little bit more of a burden, because I can't do a gift card, I can't make it simple, it's really a blessing. It's really a gift to find out he doesn't like gift cards, because in the long run, thinking more about my dad is going to be good. It's going to be better for me to put the thought and the time into it instead of taking the easy way out. And maybe this will be the beginning of something different for me in my gift giving, because I say that I'm an awful gift giver. I never know what to get anybody. Part of the reason is because I don't exercise that part of my mind, thinking about people and what they would like, what they're into, what they would appreciate. So hopefully I'll be able to knock it out of the park. We'll see. I've got 3 days here in Conway that I'm going to be by myself. Money is really, I won't say it's not an object, but it's really not an issue. I've got several things of shopping to do while I'm here, as a matter of fact. So it really shouldn't be an issue. I'm going to do some shopping and see if I can't get my dad taken care of. And I'll see. I don't know if I'll remember to report what I ended up getting him, but hopefully it'll be something he likes and something he appreciates. Now, I know what I'm getting for my wife, because she and I never get anything for each other for Christmas. Because we've always been strapped, the agreement every year, except for one other year, has been we're just not going to get anything for each other. We're going to enjoy Christmas by giving to others around us and getting, not spending the money on ourselves, because then it put more stress on us financially. So we're going to give the gift of less financial stress by not giving each other anything. We'll enjoy Christmas together in each other's company, which we haven't had a problem with, because my wife and I are very practical when it comes to that stuff. We usually have a good dinner. We'll go out to a good dinner and then go from there. But this year we knew we were going to be able to do a little something for each other, and we started thinking about it, and we started talking about it. She said, I don't know what to get for you, Michael. I don't have a clue. This is the first year I've been able to, and I really am kind of lost as to what to do. And I said the same to her. Of course, I had some ideas because my wife is real good about seeing something in a store or in a magazine or online and saying, if you're ever thinking of getting me a gift, I would love this. The problem with that is then I have a long line of list of gifts that I can get her, and I don't know which one would be the best because I can't get them all. But she came up with this idea. We've been looking at a treadmill. Now, I've been losing weight. Very good thing. I'm extremely excited about it. And I'm back kind of into the mindset that I needed to be. But a couple of years ago, I lost nearly 30 pounds. I had gotten up to 225 pounds, and I got down to 185. And I was on fire. But then the winter came. And when the winter came, I went out on a final walk. I would walk 5 miles a day. And I went off and walked 5 miles a day one day when it was really cold and just about froze my lungs. And I got a little sick and got out of walking from that point. And then I was scared for the rest of the winter to go back out and do a walk. And I just could not make myself go do it. Even on nice days, I just didn't feel like going and walking. Well, as you probably know, if you're in a routine and you get out of a routine, it's difficult to get back in it. And I got back up to 197 pounds. That's the highest I got back up to. Well, I recently decided I'm tired of this. I'm going to take control of this, and I'm going to get back down. And I haven't been walking like I wanted to, though, because I've just been so busy. And a lot of times I'll find the time a little bit later at night. Because of the way I commute, I usually don't have time in the morning. And a lot of times I'm responsible for our 2.5-year-old sometimes in the morning when I am home. And you can't do it then. So a lot of times it's kind of late at night that I actually have a minute that I could get 5 miles in. Well, if it's 11 o'clock at night, I'm not walking out and walking 5 miles at 11 o'clock at night. It's just not... I wouldn't mind it so much, but it would drive my mom and my wife crazy, worrying that I was out that late at night walking. So we've been talking about getting a treadmill for a while because I said, the winter's coming. Here we go again. I'm not going to want to walk outside. It might be too cold or it might be too late. And if I just had somewhere and a way I could walk, and when the moment strikes and I have time to do it, that would be better. And my wife is kind of in the same boat, and she's trying to lose weight, and she's lost 30 pounds too and doing real well, but kind of plateaued a little bit because she needs to add exercise in more. So she says, what if we go in together and get a treadmill that we've been talking about getting? She had looked online, read some reviews, found one that they had at Walmart for a decent price, and decided this would be a good purchase that we could kind of do for each other for Christmas. And she was afraid that I was not going to be happy with that. She was afraid I was going to say, I don't want a treadmill for Christmas, because that's one of the things they tell a husband never do for a wife. Never get them a piece of exercise equipment as a gift. But this was her idea, and I think it's a great one. So we came to the agreement that we're going to go in together for each other's present and get this treadmill and put it in our little kind of game. We don't have really a game room, but my art studio / the room where we keep the toy boxes and my art studio stuff. There's a little room there that we can put a treadmill and a little screen up so we can watch TV while we're doing it, and we're excited about it because I love to walk. I pray that this is not going to be one of those that ends up being a clothes rack. I really enjoy walking. I'm one of those people that it would be easy for me to be a hoarder because I like to accumulate, and I love to accumulate miles. For some reason, when I walk, I like to see how many I can get. And so I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to get a treadmill for Christmas, and hopefully I'm at 189. I got back down to 189, so I'm only 4 pounds away from where I had been when I started going back up. And my goal is 170. I'm 5'8", And of course, when I tell people I want to be 170, they're like, oh, you're going to be a stick figure. And I don't think so, because I've still got a good bit of gut here I've got to get rid of. A lot of it is in my belly that needs to go. And I think when I add the walking and the abdominal exercises that I've added into my routine, that I'm really about to start heavily adding into my routine, and then I've got one of those pull-up bars that you put over the doorway, and I love that thing. And I try to, I've gotten out of it a little bit, but when I first got it, I was trying to do pull-ups. Every time I would go under it, just do a few pull-ups as much as I can, and I can't even do one fully. But the first time I did it, I could barely move an inch. Now I can get halfway up, so I'm looking forward to the day I can actually get a full pull-up and then start adding more to that. So I'm working my upper body, I'm working my abdominals, and then also walking. And hopefully that will add to it, and I'm trying to get down to 170, and I will let you know when I do. I am hoping to start maybe in January, not as a New Year's resolution. I'm not a New Year's resolution person. I believe go ahead and start doing what you want to do. Don't say I'm going to do excess until New Year's because it's close here. Go ahead and make a change in your life. But I might even talk about that in a future episode. So I'm not about New Year's resolutions, but I am thinking about, because of the fresh year, starting in January, kind of documenting where I am at that moment, weight-wise and health-wise, and giving an update every week in this podcast so that you can kind of follow along with me, and hopefully it will inspire you just a little bit. So that's almost my time. I want to just take a minute before I end this episode of Road Noise and wish you a Merry Christmas. I know that this time of the year, there are really kind of three attitudes that people will, I don't even want to say attitude, emotional states that people can adopt. You've got the super jubilant, just cheerful Christmas spirit, it's the most wonderful time of the year type attitude going on. Then you've got someone where, and I kind of feel like I'm in this camp, where I'm happy and I'm excited, but I'm so tired because of everything I've had to do. So I'm getting there. I'm almost in the Christmas spirit, but because my body is worn down, or maybe my mind is worn down, or whatever reason it might be for you, you're just not quite there yet. So you're not sad, but you're not overly excited. You're just kind of there. And then a whole lot of people this time of the year, because of various reasons, are having a hard time. You're sad or just down in some way. And I want to take this opportunity to let you know I'm thinking about you. Yeah, as a whole world of people. I don't know you individually. I'd love to get to know you individually and listen to the end, and I'll tell you how you can kind of touch base with me and we can get to know each other a little better. But if you're one of those people who has a hard time at the Christmas season, I hope Road Noise is one of those things that you can turn to and it'll give you some encouragement. I really want to encourage you to just spend some time in meditation, in silence, in prayer. And if you do nothing but tell God, thank you, that I know things are bad, but they can be better. I want you to know they can be better. And I hope they are better. I don't know your situation. I'm not going to dream to tell you it's going to get better, because I don't know your situation and I don't know what you're going through. And how dare I sit there and try to just make a blanket statement like that when I don't know what's going on in your life. But I do want you to know I love you and I'm praying for you. And I'm praying that things do get better. And the one thing that I can tell you is attitude and emotion has so much to do with where you are right now. If you are down, if you're having a hard time this season, if you're lonely, if finances are weighing you down, or family struggles, whatever emotional struggles you might be going through, if you'll pull your chin up, you'll look up, and there is always hope. There's hope in Christ. I want to encourage you, even if you're not a believer in God, even if maybe you're a believer in God but not necessarily Christ, I do want to encourage you to just say a prayer and say, call to me. If you're there, God, if you really are there, show yourself in my life. And then open up your heart to allow Him to. You know, if you don't believe, I understand, and I respect that. Believe me, I completely respect that. But I do need to tell you, you don't have to throw your brains in the trash to believe. And if you don't believe, then you have nothing to lose by saying a little prayer and saying, God, honestly, and saying this honestly, God, if you really are there, if Jesus really is the Savior of my soul and you want to call to me, then here's my heart. Make yourself known to me. And then really allow yourself to be touched by Him. Every situation will be different. And I'm not saying that you'll come to any sort of revelation just based on that prayer. It's not magic. But I am saying, give Him the opportunity. You might just be surprised at the blessing you're going to get if you open your heart and say, God, if you are there, I want to know you. If you're not yet a believer, but if I'm right, I believe I am, and God is out there and calling to you, you do want to know Him. And the beautiful thing about this season is that no matter what you're going through, He loves you. And the whole point behind celebrating this time of the year is to celebrate God coming to earth in the form of the man, the birth of the Christ child, so that 33 years later, He could give Himself in your place on the cross and die for your salvation. Just want to offer that to you. I am a Christian, so you're going to get that from time to time from me. And at this time of the year, I think it's the most important message that I can give. I love you, and I encourage you, and I hope nothing but the best for you. And I hope this Christmas is one that you can celebrate and say, joy to the world, the Lord has come. If you would like to get in touch with me, and hey, if you want to discuss this that I've just talked about, be glad to discuss it. I won't debate. I won't enter into any arguments or anything like that, but I will discuss it with you. And here's how you can do it if you would like to get in touch with me for that or any other reason. Several ways. First is our hotline. It's 706-389-0401. That number once again, 706-389-0401. That's the hotline. You can leave a message on the hotline, leave a voicemail. It goes straight to voicemail. I'm not going to pick up the phone. I don't even hear it ring. I get a text message when you do leave something. So don't fear. If you're nervous about and say, I don't really necessarily want to speak to Mike, I'd be nervous or something like that. You don't have to be. It will just go straight to voicemail, and you can leave your voicemail. And I would love to hear from you that way. Tell me your story, or tell me what's on your mind. Tell me how you're feeling about the show. Maybe your suggestions, even your critiques. You can also get in touch with me via email, and the email address is roadnoisepodcast@gmail.com. roadnoisepodcast@gmail.com. Get in touch with me that way. And then, of course, I'm on all sorts of social media. On Twitter, you can catch me at Everything Arts. On Google+, I'm Michael Blackston. On Tumblr, I'm Michael Blackston. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/roadnoisepodcast. And if you're an artist, I want to encourage you to join the My Everything Arts group at facebook.com/myeverythingarts. So I want to thank you once again so much for listening to the podcast. Have a Merry Christmas. I'm Michael Blackston. And until next time, thanks for riding along with me in the passenger seat as we learn to live life 1 mile at a time.